I think Lee and Maddie are probably going to start us off here, and Megan, and it's so wonderful to see all of you folks gathering on a Thursday night. Thank you for your time, and thank you for in advance for your time on Tuesday.
Thanks, Hale. My name is Madeline or Maddie. My pronouns are she, her. I'm one of the organizers of YCAC 2.0. I'm a staff member at the Sustainability Project. Um, I work with Lee and Joanne on a project called Regenerate Grey Bruce, and we're one of the hosts of YCAC this year. And yeah, big ups to Hill for starting this insane thing on her own on mat leave. Like, it's still so stellar to imagine. Um, and I was lucky enough to be at Earth Day in Owen Sound this spring and see some of these projects the students worked on. So it was very, very exciting when RGB took YCAC on over the summer. So now we're here. We're like 5 days out. And this evening is for you folks, one, to see each other's faces, to get to know some of the lead organizers, who most of us are here, to ask us your questions, to support you signing up for your roles, and then for those who are interested in being facilitators, to spend a little bit more time at the end of the hour to kind of talk about your role in facilitating the community climate action planning process. Fab. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Actually, before I do that, the folks on the call who are kind of coordinating, organizing this, we have myself, we have Lee over there, and we have Hillary over there, and then we have Joanne over there, and Megan's over there, and Jenny is here, and Yoakum is here or not here, or someone else is Yoakum, or someone with Yoakum. I don't know that face, but Joachim is a
We
different.
have two Joachims. Joachim Ostertag is not with us, but Joachim Schmidt is, who's volunteering on Tuesday.
Okay, thanks so much,
They're
Megan.
clarifying the Joachim confusion.
Thank you. Welcome, welcome. Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to go into our, hold on one second. There we go. Right, so we're here. Welcomes has happened. Hillary started us off. And very quickly, our vision was just to build something up and out of what Hillary started in March, in the spring of last year. 50 plus students, 20 plus volunteers, ground up grassroots organizing, Harmony Center, incredible excitement, such wonderful feedback. And just to grow that, not really shift it, not really change it, just to run with it. And our goals for this year was to have between like just more than 50 kids and no more than 100. And right now, Lee, would you be willing to let us know the number we're sitting at now?
Ooh, on the spot.
Oh,
63 as of 5 o'clock.
63 students as of 5 o'clock. And it was so exciting. And additionally, we have some high school students, quite a few different groups of high school students volunteering on panels, and some students who are kind of in the bridging years between high school and college, who also will be participating at points and volunteering at points. So it's turned into this kind of intergenerational, glorious thing that we're very excited about. And also to continue to vein it out into community, to continue to build relationships with different folks, and kind of broadening out the scope of it. And I think we've done that, coordinating and collaborating with many different nonprofits in the region, funding and donations coming from different folks, volunteer or kind of not discounts, but like half offs and offers of support coming from local businesses, farms, etc. So our goals are certainly getting met, in my opinion. And I think we'll just run down with the program schedule for now, the poster that Megan drafted off of Lee's great outline. And so let's just make sure, can you see the really fun, colorful poster on my screen? No.
No.
No. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me just change. I'm gonna do it again. 1 second here. And just letting you know, I'm not monitoring the chat, so I don't know what's going on there. So can you all see the poster now? Yeah. Yep. Okay, very good. So this certainly will be sent to everyone as well. And hopefully we'll also be able to send you a more detailed program as well, closer to. So this is kind of a high level understanding of what to expect. And when we kind of go through the different roles, the different volunteer roles, you'll kind of see where each role fits into it. So we have some welcoming and space orientation and space creation, some engagement with values and community guidelines. We have space open for James Kay, an elder from Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, to come and share his thoughts around youth empowerment, education, and the climate. We'll be introducing some of our political representatives as well. Then we have our first panel, a bit of a break, our first speaker, second set of speakers, another panel, then we have lunch, a last panel, and then the breakout session where the kiddos are doing their project planning. And then we kind of all come back together, share those projects, think about some next steps, and then we close the day at 3. It's certainly a consolidated schedule. We're certainly doing a lot. And a lot of the organizers are very ready for flexibility and adaptation to happen on the day of. So if you don't mind, folks, I'll run through this and run through the roles, and then I'll pause, and then it'll be question. Does that sound okay? Nods. Okay, very good. So I'm going to just stop my screen because it seems I can't toggle very well. All right. So let us go down to the roles, and we'll share my screen one more time. So there's quite a few different roles that you can sign up for. This is the time of the night to plug a thing. The Google form, if that's accessible to you, you have capacity to fill something like that out, is linked at the top of the agenda. Hopefully one of the organizers will also post the link in the Zoom chat, and it was also sent to you in the email reminder for this evening. And it's very simple. Just pick the one that you want, and we'll get the data, and we'll holler at you Sunday night or Monday morning. Whoever's kind of the lead of your volunteer role will get in contact with you. So you can see it's very basic of any kind of event, right? There's setups. There's kind of liaison support. There's teacher and student support, probably going to be the same role. We don't know yet, still ongoing. We have food setup and support. We have a lead, Jenny, she's on the call. Wave, Jenny. Can you wave, Jenny? Hi, Jenny. Hey. Then we have some tech support, presenter. We have climate fair, which is this very exciting thing. This very exciting happening that at lunch, there's so many little points of engagement and attention capture for the kiddos. And one of the pieces that's very exciting is that during lunch, different organizations, reps, businesses will set up little booths in the hallway, and the kids can glance through, walk through, engage, play some games with seeds, eat some fresh organic carrots. And Joanne, who's on the call, wave Joanne, is the lead for that. So if you want to help Joanne set that up, etc., that's who you would report to. And then we have art project support. Thank you for adding that. We have some gorgeous stuff coming for you guys in thanks, as well as our presenters. So putting together thank yous. We also have an outdoor activity planned if the rain permits. So that's another volunteer role. And then we have the chunky facilitator role, and that's a little bit different, and that we'll talk about later on in the evening if you'd like to stay on for that, if you're interested in that role. And then tear down and floater. You're good with anything. You could do anything. So there's many different things that you can do. I think, like most community work, everything is ongoing. Things are shifting and changing, and things will be adapted. So as of right now, these are the roles. These are kind of the time requirements, right? And then these are your leads. And on the day of, Lee and myself, who are the overall volunteer leads, will have some form of check-in at the door. We're figuring out what that would look like at the moment. And we'll also make sure that whatever you sign up for and whoever your lead is, you're connected, supported, and ready to have a wonderful day on Tuesday. So just trust that we'll get there when we get there. We're just not fully there yet. So I'll pause now. I think we're good just to go right into what we learned from YCAC 1.0, but I'll pause in case there's a slew of questions that folks may forget before going into some of the feedback. I'll stop sharing my screen.
Madeline, this is Luc. I'm not really familiar with this. I just responded to Lee's email asking for volunteers. Can you give a bit of a background what this is all about and what the objective of the day is?
Sure. Thanks, Luc, for your question. So the Youth Climate Action Conference is a full day event focused on students of grade 6, 7, and 8 to build student empowerment around climate change. So supporting students to talk, to engage, and to act in their communities on in the impacts of climate change. And so Hillary Coburn, who's on the call, organized the first Youth Climate Action Conference in March 2023. This is the second. And so typically how one of these conferences go, this is only the second iteration, is the morning is kind of inspiration and igniting your passion. The kind of middle portion of the day is visioning, thinking about what you'd like to do, again, inspired by speakers. And the last chunk of the day is action. So spending time with facilitators, actually creating an action plan. We have booklets. Some of you may want to be facilitators of that action plan. So that's a bit of a specific role. And there's some tree planting activities outside as well in the afternoon. So kind of 3 sections of the day. So that's the gist of the day. Does that answer your question, Luc?
Thanks. Yeah, very helpful. Thanks.
Okay, great. No problem. Any other questions at this time? No? Okay, great. So where are we? Here we are. So I'll share my screen one more time.
While Maddie is sharing your screen, I can just add that there's one volunteer role that you can do in advance if you have a slow weekend or if you have some kids. We need the thank you cards written in plethora. So it's a job that can be done in advance in case you can't make the day.
Thanks, Lee.
And not to be ingenuine, but we have templates. So very simply, you could, in your handwriting, just copy what is typed. Last year, I just had it typed and I cut it and I put it in a card and then I put my name at the bottom to try and personalize due to time constraints. But if we have the time, then we get to handwrite them.
And there's so many people involved. It's like almost one-to-one volunteers, but if you count all the people in the booths and the presenters, it's definitely one-to-one adults and students.
Which is incredible because as Hillary started in the spring, right, this is completely grassroots, like started from parents and teachers and counselors, and it stayed that way. It stayed at that level. So it's a really incredible privilege to be involved, certainly. So lots of great feedback. Lots of it came from folks on this call, because lots of you volunteered or supported the first iteration in March. But some of like kind of the bigger, juicier pieces that I could pull out is that, you know, if you're, let's say you're volunteering as a facilitator, or even perhaps as a floater or student liaison, so someone kind of engaging with the students more face-to-face, consider you're talking to like 10, 11, 12, and 13-year-olds. Like that's the gauge. So like for like I'm young, but I'm not that young. So, you know, I have to kind of refamiliarize myself with the scope and the lens. And, you know, some of the feedback from last year was, oh yeah, my kids are in university. I kind of forgot like how to communicate these complex kind of pieces. So they're accessible, so they're received, so people understand them. And so hopefully as organizers, we can support you with the language, et cetera. And if you do sign up to be a facilitator, we have a whole guide for you. So there is lots of support for you in that way. So just consider the age of the kids that you're going to be around, and also if let's say you are grouped up with students, or you're going to be around a particular group for a portion of the day, maybe find them before the session starts or before your responsibility starts, and get to know them. Share a snack, you know, share your lunch break with them. One of the greatest things to read all of this feedback was how excited the adults were that the kids wanted to hang out, and vice versa. So the intergenerational power in the room is going to be pretty incredible. And also consider bringing what you may share before you arrive. Some of the feedback from last year was like, oh man, these kids came in raw and ready to go, hot and heavy. Like they were so excited. They had all these ideas, and I was not ready. And I could quickly, you know, think on my toes, and I could offer a thought here or there, but I wish I had time to think of a story, or think of a project that I worked on with, you know, this small activist group in my 20s, or, you know, on my PTA when I had a kid who was their age. So, you know, consider coming prepared with a story or two about the climate work that you've done in your lives. And I'm assuming that you've done some, because you're on this call. So those are kind of the three big points that I pulled out from last year. I'll pause here. Hillary, is there any feedback that I've missed, kind of like the overarching pieces from last year that you'd like to offer?
No, thank you, Maddie. I think you've read those feedback documents really thoroughly, and like you've offered some really insightful pieces. Yeah, I think it's like we want them to like authentically get to know the community and who these like caring adults are that want to support their projects. So as Maddie says, coming with an anecdote and like honoring like just your strengths, whether maybe you haven't done a ton of environmental work, but you've done some work with housing, or you've done some work with getting involved with city council and delegating at a meeting. So being able to just like play up your strengths. And I think the more questions that you have for them at the very beginning, if you're a facilitator, or even if you're just chatting with them over lunch, as Mandy says, informally, I know they're kind of intimidated. Like a lot of these kids are grade 6 and they don't really know what they're getting into. And just that warmth that I know you will naturally so bring will make their experience more approachable and welcoming. So yeah, but no, Maddie, I think that feedback is great. And I think the knowing of like as Maddie went through those roles, just knowing who those point people are. If you're like, oh, I'm kind of done this task, but I've got another hour of my time here. What next could I do? Coming to check in with Lee, Maddie, Meg, Joanne, you're welcome, Jenny, myself, would be awesome. Thanks.
No problem. Thanks, Hillary. And the last kind of piece of the agenda that I'll offer before we kind of just open the floodgates for questions for kind of general volunteers, and then for facilitators just to stay after, is we're kind of centering around kind of three themes or three pillars. We're calling them themes, or maybe they're motifs, metaphors, who knows, but there's three things we're keeping in mind as we planned this year out. So one of them was this tool of multi-solving, or this paradigm, or this way of looking at a problem. And it's very simple. It's written in our volunteer orientation booklet there. It's very, I'll share my screen again. Sorry, guys, I'm going back and forth. I'm sorry if it's a bit distracting there. So I'm not going to read this. You can read it here, and you'll be given something of almost like a one-pager with the role that you've identified at some point Sunday night or Monday morning, with the little three blurbs of the theme. As you can see, one of the blurbs is not finished. So multi-solving is, multiple solutions to one problem, right? So if we are talking about a problem like an impact from climate change, think about how we not only can support our environment to regenerate and support our environment to be healthy, but how can that also support affordable housing? How can that also support, lowering the barriers to free education or whatever? So just kind of a multi-pronged approach. Also, we're kind of highlighting and encouraging folks to think about climate action teams, especially in Grey and Bruce County, where the climate action teams and network is insanely strong, super vibrant, and needs new, young, fresh energy to maintain that vibrancy. So just thinking and kind of showing how so much climate work is being done by volunteers and within the community. And kind of like the storytelling piece of the day, which will kind of be built through the art project and built through some of the space creation and some of what James K will offer, is this idea that all of us together are shifting how our community engages in the climate. We do care for our kids and their future, and we do care to protect our landscapes. And so we're living in this story of caring, kind, considered community members, and how that links to hope and how that links to regeneration. You'll see later on this weekend, because my brain is no longer working. But in short, regeneration and narrative is around hope. It's around story building. It's around helping us kind of document the day and ways of showing others that something like what we're doing is possible other places. So I'll pause there and just open the floor up for questions. I'll now stop sharing my screen and go into the chat. Okay, I'll pause. Go for it, whomever.
Are there any questions?
There is a question in the chat.
Yeah, I can just formulate the question. So the problems, is that something that the kids prepared beforehand, or is that something we should be prepared to give them example problems to discuss?
That's a really great question.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go for it.
Well, my thinking is that the inspiration will be in the first part of the conference. Obviously, we'll be drawing ties between biodiversity and climate and different ways of acting on climate, and broadening ways to act on the climate crisis. This is one of those really precious venues where people mix from all backgrounds, kind of like Remembrance Day ceremonies where, or minor hockey tournaments. You get people who are full-on climate activists and people that isn't on their radar. So this is one of those venues where the kids may not, some kids may just hear from their parents that buying an electric car might be the solution to the climate crisis. And some people might be coming from homes that are thinking more holistically and think of the electric car as one piece of the puzzle, and like they might be miles ahead of us even. So this is one of those mixed spaces where I'm sure when we have the presenters talk about the issues, the two presenters will be talking about biodiversity and waste. So those are two ways that aren't always on the radar and aren't always obvious connections between climate change and those issues. Hill might be able to elaborate.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic, Lee. I think that was the concept of last year, was like, let's give them some inspiration and some examples of problems, passions, and then how someone created an action. So that thinking came from it may it rest in peace, me to we, who I used to be like an international trips facilitator for. So I would take like high school youth and sometimes university students, and we'd look at, like, we would study the model of like, there's problems in communities around the world, and they would go home with a project involving a problem and then something that they're passionate about. So like a really simple example might be, I'm a grade 6 kid and I see like my family's buying bottled water. That's a problem. I really love to play soccer. So how can I combine this problem and this passion? And then this action, they could maybe host a couple of soccer games in the summer that they like plan for all year, or they host them in the spring or wherever. And they invite organizations, they invite friends, and everyone that comes to the soccer tournaments has to sign a waiver, a pledge that says, I will not buy bottled water, because I understand these impacts, and there's a bit of education that the kids can give with that event at the soccer game. So that, anyway, I think the facilitator piece will touch on more of that. But if you are a facilitator, thinking of examples like that to share with them, because some of them may not, like, the speakers will be inspiring, but they may not connect with like, oh, that's a passion I can see I already have. So it's, how do you bring out the kid that loves art, the kid that loves music, the kid that loves playing chess, and like giving them a connection to seeing a problem and seeing that they can be a change maker because of the passions that they have and the skills they already have too.
Maddie, I have a question about the format of, say, the afternoon, the 1:15 to 3:30, when the kids are trying to come up with action plans. So if there are 60 some students, will they be spread out in like 10 tables or something? So when I signed up for facilitator or facilitator support, I forget which one I clicked. I was thinking that I would be at one of those tables with a whole bunch of students. You know. Okay,
sound great. Question. Lee, would you be willing to make a note that I'm seeing John Anderson on your screen, ma'am? What's your...
And sorry, you guys, I turned my computer on, Margaret, and it was updating. It was doing updates, so it was not ringing up the Zoom.
Oh, okay.
I turned it on like 25 minutes before this began, but it wasn't ready. So John said, well, I'll turn mine on.
Okay, perfect.
His is quicker. So I am perfect. Margaret.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so Lee, may you please make a note that Margaret would like to be a facilitator, not a facilitator support. And so Margaret, to your question. So yes, so there's 11 schools. Each school will have one group.
One breakout room, yeah.
Okay, so there, in a sense, there's 11 groups of students. Okay, those groups of students will range between 3 and 7, if I'm understanding correctly our numbers at this point. May change, of course. So 11 groups. Our goal is to have 1 to 2 facilitators per group.
Yeah.
Per group. And so that is my understanding. That's what you signed up to do, not support, but to be a facilitator of one of those groups. Is that correct?
Yeah, I
Perfect.
think. Yeah.
Perfect. And so it will completely depend on how many folks sign up to be a facilitator. Because if, let's say, we don't have enough to have one per group, perhaps we'll have one for 2 groups. We don't know yet, but that's our goal. So we have at least 11 facilitators for 11 groups. And of course, the lead organizers, will be floating. We'll step into facilitation mode if we need to, but that's the idea. So 11 groups.
Oh, we can talk about that afterwards.
11 facilitators. Does that answer your question there?
Yeah, and I can be flexible too. I can be put in wherever you need.
Thank you. That's wonderful. Thanks, Margaret. Another question. Yes, go ahead. You're muted. Okay.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, I'm late. And I think we also had discussed, because the students are encouraged to continue these projects over the year, beyond the conference. The conference is basically the spark to a project, which they hopefully present at Earth Day on the 20th of April, which we did last year. And so hopefully we can have a team basically between facilitators and the student groups that also can continue. That might be a little bit challenging, but if we would know at least some geographical correlations, that would be great. So, for instance, I'm linked to Keppel Sarabat. I did this last year and continue doing that. So we haven't really thought that through yet, like how we find the geographical coordinates. I think, Joachim, you are up in Lion's Head, and so you might find a group there. Did I pronounce your name right, Joachim? You are muted.
Whatever works, Joachim.
Oh yeah, I heard that before, but it's just a joke. Anyway, so that is the idea that if possible, we continue those relationships and help the students to continue that.
I have a follow-up question to your comment there is, do we already have a list of the schools that sent a student group? So in that regard, it would be easier than to build these special relationships.
Totally. This is great feedback. So I'm thoughtful in answer to Joachim's question with another question with this glorious bunch of volunteers who knows what your role is yet, but committed for Tuesday. Would it be something appropriate to ask you folks for your location, like where you're based? And if, let's say, you also then identify wanting to be a facilitator, we intentionally link you with the school that's closest to you. If you are interested in playing the role, we haven't really talked about it, as Joachim said, like mentor or project mentor, like beyond the conference, which is like another responsibility that Joachim took on that wasn't expected of facilitators in the first conference. And I don't think is expected of facilitators in this conference either. It's an invitation for sure. But if that's something that you're interested in mentoring these students in their project up until Earth Day, where they'll present them, linking you with the school closest to you on the day of might make sense, right? So this is an open question to everyone on the call. What do folks think? Is that a good idea? Does that make sense? Is that appropriate to ask of you guys to give us your address?
Was anything like that in their sign-up sheet for volunteering?
No.
Okay, because that could be a part of the link to have that connection for sure.
We could have thought about that, but we didn't. And it's not obligatory, but it might be, and it's not a big job necessarily. Like it might be just important to get the students going, because after the conference usually there's a lull, right? Our conference was great, and I forget about it, and the teachers forget about it too. So I was just lucky that the school invited Barry, Randall, and myself. So we had 3 projects at the same time. So we went there, and it was obviously very productive, because this school also had these 3 projects presented at Earth Day, and the one went to community to municipal council. So it showed, and I think we didn't have to be there a lot. We were, but and it's not a lot. It's kind of an hour a week or something like this. But just to get them going and encourage them at certain points.
And quite honestly, you can be as active as you walk and Barry and present, and like they were so amazing. Or you can send the teacher the odd email, and that will help. That will help so much. Like it doesn't. I think by signing on, as I was calling them mentors last year, like it can be as much or as little as you can do. And literally any email I get that's a reminder for something, like as an educator, I appreciate, and then I like will act. I'm more likely to act on it with the students.
Thanks, Hill. Thanks, everyone. So one last call for general questions. And after that, if you're interested in being facilitator, please stay behind. And if not, thank you very much. And look for another email with some of the last minute details Sunday night or Monday morning.
Yeah, I have another question. Do you already know who the teachers will be that will come with the students from the different schools?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, we do have that. Am I muted? No, now I'm good. Yeah, we have the 11 teachers and we have the 11 schools. There are 3 schools that couldn't get the teacher to come, so they're giving parent chaperones instead of teachers. But briefly, there are Keppel Sarawak, Georgian Bay up in Meaford, Hepworth, Eastridge and Hillcrest in Owen Sound, Notre Dame in Owen Sound.
Which school in Hepworth? Sorry, Lee.
Hepworth School, Hepworth Central School. It's this, yep, it's the only school in Hepworth.
The French immersion and the other guys.
They're all in the same building. They're all invited. And
okay.
And then we've got Lions Head Brisbane Peninsula District School. There's 2 from down south, Erin Terra Elementary School and Holland Chatsworth Community School. There's one in Walkerton, St. Teresa of Calcutta, and then PSDS in Wyerton. So that makes 11.
And Notre Dame, did you get that?
Notre Dame and Owen Sound, yeah.
Eastridge, yeah.
2 in the Catholic School Board, 9 in the Blue Water School Board, and a couple of homeschoolers.
Great. Last call for general questions. Oh, Jenny. Jenny?
Facilitators still? Like, I don't know how many folks have already signed up, but are you in a situation where you do need more facilitators? Sorry, my internet connection is really bad tonight.
Yes, we do need more facilitators. Okay. We need at least 11 to have our ideal breakouts, and we could have upwards to 22. It would be the max. I believe we're sitting about just under 10.
Okay. Yeah, I can take on one facilitator role.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very, very much, everyone. So folks who are interested in volunteering in anything other than facilitation, thank you very much for your time this evening. Again, look for an email with last minute details, sometime Sunday night or Monday morning. In that email, there'll be kind of the kind of task, the name, and the phone number / email for the lead organizers for each task. So you'll kind of know who to text if you're running late, et cetera, and some of the last minute things that we think you should know. Thank you very, very much for coming. And for folks interested in facilitation, please stay behind. Thanks again.
Right. We'll share the handbook so that you have an idea. That was one more piece of feedback from last year, is that the handbook was really good and really thorough and probably exactly perfect, but people would probably want to review it together before. So that's why we're having this little one now. So go for it. Let's have a look, have a peek.
Hi, everyone. Okay, so welcome to this section of the evening.
Thank you.
You're welcome. This is the incredible guide that Hill made for YCAC 1.0 in the spring. We've been slowly adapting it with the kind of three themes, multi-solving, regeneration, and climate action teams, consolidating a little bit and providing a little bit more room for note-taking, for you to jot down your thoughts, etc. It's absolutely a work in progress still. And my goal is to have something at least 90% done for you all by tomorrow around noon. So you have a few days to look it over. There may be one or two slight changes on Tuesday. And the last note is that organizers will have a copy printed and ready for you when you arrive on Tuesday. So absolutely print whatever you need out over the weekend to suss it out, do your thinking, but we'll have a nice fresh version, a folder with some notepads, etc. for you on Tuesday morning as well. So know that you're covered there. So I'll pause. Is there any general questions before we move through the guide? I'm not seeing the chat. I'm not seeing hands. Okay. Very good, everyone. Lee, are you still seeing the facilitator guide on your screen?
You bet. Yep.
Okay, very good. Thank you, everyone. So some basics, very simple.
Can you make it a little bigger, Maddie?
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you.
Your chat. There you go. Move the chat over there.
Does that work? Is that better,
yeah,
Joe?
That's better,
okay.
Thanks.
No problem. So basics at the top, so y'all don't forget. And yeah, we've added lots of room for notes if you need it. So again, some themes not finished. Some of the basic feedback from the first year, again, for you to consider. And then it moves right into your main role, which is to facilitate and support students in their community climate action plan process. So as Hill said, there's kind of 3 steps. We unfortunately don't have too much time in the agenda, but again, adaptation, flexibility is the name of the game. And maybe we'll have a bit more time if we get rained out outside, who knows? Right now, we're working with approximately an hour and 20 minutes for this section of the afternoon. So the timestamps are approximate, certainly, and y'all are experienced, either you've had kids or you've taught or whatever, you'll be able to read your group and understand how much time you may need for each step, especially if you have the guide beforehand, which is our plan.
Are you going to have any reminders through that time frame to say, here 20 minutes in, or kind of say you should be here at this point, or is it?
Thanks, Joanne. Yes, we will. The organizers, Joachim and myself, Lee, whomever, that's certainly on our radar to somehow build that into the programming to make sure that you guys aren't always checking your clock, that we can be your clock for you.
It's a great idea. I'm going to go around with a little bell and ding it when there's 5 minutes and when there's 2 and when there's 1 minute.
Get the cattle
Will that be around your neck?
So some of the pieces that have been helpful for us and from our facilitation experience as organizers will make it onto this page eventually. And some kind of basics there that aren't yet sussed out in the kind of wonderful words of Hill, like challenge by choice. So finding ways to create choice, create options of willingness, rather than like, this is an expectation, you have to do this, framing a question or framing an activity with the language of, let's say, an invitation. Now I'd like to invite you to think about one time when ... offers them, it's an invitation. It's like hey, how about, rather than now is the time. So it kind of offers a little bit of an energy that they're engaging with on their own terms, which is kind of inherent values of this whole process and this whole day, which is student empowerment, student engagement, and dignity, right? Like really seeing these kids for what they are, which is change makers all unto themselves. And we're just here to support them with our resources. So that this section will be a little bit more sussed out. And certainly if folks who facilitated last year want to offer tips here, now's the chance. Perhaps this is a good opportunity to chat.
Maddie,
yeah.
do you, what do you mean by a talking piece? Do you mean a pretend microphone that goes around and I've got the talking stick? Or do you mean something that is a technique that you give the students to get them to engage? What do you mean by that?
I'm getting all geeky. I'm very excited that you asked me about this. Would you be willing, Margaret, if we paused and came back to this after we went? Okay, perfect.
Absolutely.
Well
you
done.
can come back to it. Yeah.
Okay, great. Because I love it. Okay, so part one is mainly connections. So we have some activity options here. We're going to offer one more. This is mainly time spent getting to know you getting to know the students knowing you. And who knows, like some of the groups of students are going to be coming from, let's say, a student council group or an environmental club at their schools. They may not necessarily be in the same class, probably in the same grade, but maybe even not. So they may not even know each other that well. So kind of considering that, y'all have experience, think about ways to engage and start to build connections, start to build a little bit of trust, start to build a little bit of humor and a little bit of group identity, right? What are you guys known for? Or, think about that, right? So approximately 20-ish minutes for that. And then you kind of start going in your climate action brainstorming. So approximately another 20 minutes here. And this is that kind of like great equation, right? Passion, problem, action. So at the top of each section here, what is in bold is what's going to be in the student project planning workbook, which our goal is also for y'all to have a copy of that over the weekend to go through as well. That's our goal. But what is in your guide at the top of each section, what is bolded will be what's in their booklet. So you'll have references. So again, you're supporting them to list some of the activities, hobbies, and things that they enjoy doing. Hillary talked about why we're choosing to use this kind of theory of change to engage the students, right? It's easier to do something when you like doing it. It's just simple social psychology. So a few verbal prompts for you. We'll offer a few more and some notes for yourself as well, because through this entire guide, you'll see us like kind of hammering home this invitation to y'all to share your own story, to, set your own boundaries here, but show a little vulnerability, right? Like, speak from the heart. That really will touch kids and will show them that, oh, hey, this is this person I don't really know, a person who has authority, sharing something that is a problem for them or something they're really excited about. I can do that too. It's very powerful when that power dynamic is somewhat leveled by the sharing of stories. So kind of the next element in that equation is problem. So again, this is what is in their booklet. And this is for you to consider and to think about. And to Joachim's earlier point, this may be a really generative and tricky portion of the afternoon, because this may be, most likely will be one of the only moments that the students will have a bit of time to feel their feelings. And, we're talking about problems, and we haven't really mentioned it yet, but climate anxiety and climate fear and climate concern are a real element of our middle-aged school kids' mindsets right now when it comes to their future. One of the reasons why this conference exists, one of the reasons why the project I'm working on exists. And so our invitation to you folks is not to shy away from that, and certainly not to shame it. It's sad to have to invite that thought, but to say it, right? Like fear is a thing, sadness is a thing, but certainly don't stay there, right? And we're going to offer you a few more verbal prompts than what you have here to help you with that. But it's very, it would be such a privilege and honor for us, and hopefully you would think so as well, if a student trusted you and trusted the event and trusted us enough to share some of what they fear and what they're concerned of. So yeah, invitation is not to shy away, certainly not stay, but to allow that to also inform the project. And then that last piece is that connection, right? So connecting passion to problem. So again, this is what is in their book, the bold at the top. And we'll add a little bit more of a supporting prompt to help you link it to multi-solving. And then these are some of the ideas that you can offer the students. They have a few of them in their work booklet. That's an example of linking passion to problem to action. And then you kind of have to support them choosing, you know, am I going to do this action plan by myself, or am I going to do it in a small group? And this is a point of clarity for Hillary. Hill, if a student, we're also learning too, right? If a student says, I'd like to do this project by myself, and let's say 3 other students say, I want to do this project with these students beside me, what is, in your experience, was the process to help students decide? Like, okay, so student 1 is going to do its own thing, and student 2 wants to work with student 3 and 4 on student 2's climate action plan. How did you help them make that decision process? Do you remember?
So to be honest, I was running around and I wasn't facilitating. So Lee was and could answer that, and so was Joachim here. But like as a teacher, I would say it's like, and because we're giving them this option here, I think it's like that's great. Do you feel you have the capacity? Like often a kid that wants to work solo has great work ethic, trusts themselves, is gonna step up to their goals. So quite often it's just asking those prompts at the beginning, like, is there ways that I could support you to get this started, or who would be the adult in your life that you might go back and talk to at dinner tonight about this, or tomorrow at school? Might be a teacher, might be an auntie, whatever. Yeah, but I think it's great. Ask that question: would you like to work solo, or would you like to work in a group? And some of the kids are coming in groups of 5 or 6 with their school, and they may choose to do one project for all of them. Yeah. I don't know, Joachim.
I have some thoughts about it, yeah. Like I had the Cabell Sarawak school, which was a huge group compared to this one. I think there were about 12 or 13 or 15. And they had some ideas. And one girl said she had a plan for herself. She wanted to do something about, I don't know, develop some kind of a program. But then when the school when they came together in the school, she abandoned what she wanted to do, which was too big for her. I mean, that's another factor we shouldn't forget. We have the teachers there too. And I think it's really important that we involve the teachers in this conversation. So I think we were lucky that the teacher from Cabell Sarawak, she was very caring, but kind of stayed in the background, but sometimes had a bit of a kind of a caring hand in the conversation, very, very little. It was really good. So that might help too, because the teacher will, at least in some schools, will carry the torch with the students, and they are not necessarily super kind of prepared for that either. So again, the we is important. Like we are all kind of in the same boat in this project, the students, the teachers, and us. And you will probably find out very quickly what the relationship is between the teachers or the adults and the students. So, and then we have to kind of play with that. But I think it's sometimes a bit like, you know, child therapy, that it's also important to work with the parents.
Thank you. Joachim. Lee, any thoughts on that question? No. Very good. And then the kind of last big portion is So this whole portion here that you see, boom, 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 is all in their books. So they start to build the passion, problem, and action together. They have a little bit of space to describe their plan, and then some prompting questions. And then what you folks have in this book is you have this chart. And so you're very welcome there's going to be chart paper, different art supplies, wherever you are facilitating. We're still working out where exactly in Sydenham students will be. We'll have, I think we have 4 breakout rooms, so maybe 2 or 3 groups will be in one room. That is an aside. You'll have numerous different materials you can use to chart this up, and have kids kind of writing what they're saying, or you could write action step, person's responsible, just on big pieces of paper, and then you get them writing on stickies and sticking them on the wall. So this is your tool to help them organize their thoughts, organize their planning process. And there'll be a few more prompts for you here as well. But this is kind of the gist of what they have, a simpler form of what you guys have here.
Maddie, do the students get these booklets ahead of time, or they get them the Tuesday morning?
Previously, they got them day of. Correct me if I'm wrong, Hillary.
Yeah, they got a little folder last year of the schedule of the day, and they had this workshop booklet in it. I think, to be honest, because the kids are not all from the same class, and the teacher is kind of going above and beyond to get them there, I think it's best we just continue this year to give it to them the day of.
Yeah.
And we may get feedback that it might be helpful in the future. I think we're just so close to the time frame, and we've kind of overwhelmed the teachers as is. So
Okay.
Yeah, that's a great question. And something that, the organizers, MCs, will invite students to do throughout the morning and lunchtime is to look in their booklets, and they'll have quite a little bit, they'll have room throughout their booklet to jot down notes and draw a picture. And so ways of engaging them to look at the booklet, if not to start the project already. They won't, but maybe they'll start jotting ideas down somewhere else. So there'll be invitations for them to look at it at least a few times before coming into the action project planning process. And then the closing of the workshop will be about, we'll give you approximately 10 minutes. Maybe you'll need less, maybe you'll need more. And this section is not as fleshed out or adapted yet, but in short, it's a time where, as a facilitator, in my opinion, the closing is where the skill comes out, right? It's what does your group need? What do you need? How do you get it in the last 2 minutes? So it's really a time for you folks to use how you need it. Does this one kid really need to be heard because they haven't spoken in 10 minutes? Or do we need to get logistics and details on the paper before we come back, et cetera, et cetera. So that last 10 minutes is kind of up to your discretion. So I'll pause there and stop sharing my screen. And we'll get back to the talking stick in we'll just go there then. Let's just do that. Right, so a talking piece in the type of I'm a trained mediator, a conflict mediator, and the process I'm trained in is called Circle. And one of the protocols we use is a talking piece. And how we use that is typically it's a physical thing, a stone, a piece of a piece of wood, whatever. And the protocols that go along with the talking piece is that whoever's holding the piece can speak without the expectation to respond to anyone around the circle, and the people who don't have the talking piece, the expectation is that they don't have to respond. So the talking piece, that may not have made sense there, but the idea is that the talking piece goes around the circle. Each person gets the talking piece. Each person is allowed to pass the talking piece without saying anything, to hold the talking piece without saying anything, and to say what they want. They don't necessarily need to answer the prompt, answer the invitation, answer the question. And the circle keeper or facilitator at large in general, who's just using this as a tool, also goes in the circle. And so as the talking piece goes round and round, each person has the experience of having the same ability, the same chance to take space up and to be heard and to listen. And so slowly and surely, it's an experience of equity. And so often it's used, in moments not like this, in moments of resolution or justice restitution, right? When there's harm and harm doers, to start to build equity in a situation where there isn't. And it's often very helpful at the beginning of working with new groups and working with new people, just to get folks who, aren't habitually comfortable speaking, the chance to speak. And for folks who are habitually speaking a lot, you take up a lot of space, who have lots to say, to speak a little less. So that's my understanding, and that's how I use a talking piece. And there'll be a much better, less wire-brained definition of that in the facilitator tips section by tomorrow at noon.
Well, do you want facilitators to bring an object that they would consider appropriate as a talking piece?
I think that's a great idea. As organizers, we were going to bring some, and we were going to just make sure there was enough for each group. I think it's an incredible, wonderful thing that if you're excited about using that as a tool, because these are just tips, right? It's not an expectation that you use them. We trust your skills. Certainly, bring a few with you. And also, like, if you have a special pen or I don't know, I plan on bringing like we love to warm up a space as organizers. So we're going to be bringing tablecloths and dried flowers into the space and vases, etc. So if pieces like that help you facilitate, again, within reason and with understanding the event, feel free, I think that's great, more the merrier.
My experience has been with little rocks. They're very powerful because they get really warm. So they feel the warmth from the hands from the circle before. And sometimes kids or people will comment on that. It's a warm rock. So there's a certain sense of community in the piece.
Thanks, Joachim. Exactly. Grand. Okay, it's 8:06. Final ask for questions. Lee and my email, Hillary's email, Joachim's email, Joanne's and Jenny's and Megan's are all available in the group email you got, I think, earlier today as a reminder of tonight. So you can also, of course, email us then. And the facilitation. Oh, yes, go for it, Susie.
Hi, Maddie. I didn't really sign up as a facilitator because I'm bringing two of our high school students who are on college, doing a college program with me and doing their high school classes on campus. So I'll be helping them together with Jenny. However, I was expecting tonight at least one member from the Georgian College Student Association to show up. And I will let you all know because I really would like them to facilitate one of the sessions as well around a topic which involves some climate action kickstarted by young people, which the post-secondary students can learn from or be engaged in. So I'll let you all know. I would be very disappointed if this doesn't happen. And if you also, for all of you who are going to be there, I would really appreciate some help also to however many students of our 2 classes show up. So these are high school students, to spread them out and give them a purpose. It will be a lot easier to make it meaningful for everybody.
Sounds good. If we have follow-up questions, Susie, like what does giving them a purpose look like? Can we email you in the next day or two to understand a little bit more about how we can make that happen for your kids?
Yeah, totally.
Okay,
always.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Yes, Jenny.
Yeah, I was just going to say, there's a lot of us here probably that have done lots of facilitation, and it's a fair amount to cover in an hour and just a bit more than an hour when you sit down, get organized, kind of get your spots, take your space, get everybody there, and then have to leave the session. And I'm just wondering if you might have thoughts about which pieces, like do we want to make sure that that's kind of that who, what, why plan gets done? So we might want to, but you can't really do that until you've done the pieces that come before. So I guess I'm just putting out the question around the expectation for the completion of the plan, because that's going to be the toughest, is getting down to that. And even just to have a start on, what is it, who's going to be part of it, and, when, who, what, when kind of thing, as opposed to all the columns and that, because that part's always the hardest to get done. So what are your thoughts about that? And whether if we just had sort of high level who, what, when kind of things, would that work enough? It's about them being engaged and wanting to go forward. It doesn't really matter if there's a plan on paper. I guess that's my question, if it's a question.
Yeah, great question. Hillary, do you have thoughts on that?
I think like if you break down that facilitator handbook and their workbook into like 3 words, like if they came away with 3 words, what's your passion? What's an issue you care about? And then what's like a quick brainstorm of an action that you think you could take, right? It's that water bottle problem. I love soccer. And then like, I really want to host a soccer tournament. So like, I think if they do leave with those 3 questions answered, I think that's a really fair point, Jenny. It's really impossible. Last year we struggled to get down to with everybody leaving with a plan. We're going to have a board at the end of the day that as they come back and before they get in their cars to go, they can just write their name, their school, and then like if they have a title of their project, like soccer tournament for pledging no water bottles, something as simple as that. You can kind of preface that at the like, we'd love to hear the essence, and it doesn't mean that has to be their be all end all project. They may get back to school and realize they're really actually interested in something else. But I think we're doing a disservice to the whole day if we don't try and at least have them have like a somewhat of an action plan in their head, and a little bit of paper. It doesn't. I like with my kids at school when it's something like this. I emphasize the dot jots. Don't give me full sentences. Don't worry about spelling. All that's like it's like the conversation that you have will be rich, and then get them to dot jot it. Because if we just talk at them and get them to talk and they don't leave with something pen to paper, I do think we won't see as much buy-in or like success with their projects. If that helps.
So that's important. Also, that's important that you're hoping to have like a project and a name that they can share with everybody at the end. I think that's that's really helpful too.
And I think they don't
that you want to have is that there's a a project,
and that's where totally, and that's where sometimes the group is great because they hold each other accountable to like, let's create a name, let's create it. Whereas if they're all doing their own, they might, I don't know. But I think that we also have to honor that like with 11 groups, there'll be lots of different facilitation. There'll be lots of different like rich conversations. But perhaps just not not allowing the group to get like stuck on the introductions for too long, or like be very mindful of those time frames. And I think we'll do our best, as Lee was saying, to go around, ding a bell. But I think you, as a facilitator, having a time device, whether that's like a analog or a whatever kind of iPhone or whatever you use, to kind of give yourself some time frames is really it's helpful. I've been in teaching for 11, 12 years, and I'm still always late with like the bells going, and I'm like, but I have one more point. So it's not difficult. But so no sweat. They're gonna get so much out of this day that like, no, I don't think we need to put too much pressure on the facilitators too. They're gonna be inspired, and ultimately they will have cool actions that they're gonna take after this.
Yeah. Joanne, you had a question there?
Yeah, just to kind of, for myself, to help close the loop a little bit, having talked about the passion, the issue, and coming up with action, are the three themes that were multi-solving, regeneration, and climate action teams. Is their passion, issue, action plan to link back to those three themes? Is that the idea?
I think,
or one of them?
I think that, in my understanding, and this is grassroots organizing, so all organizers probably have a different answer here, and that's the beauty of it. So take that what you will. I think for me, those three themes aren't like necessarily to be vocalized in their plans, or I think like the multi-solving is the tool to help you broaden their understanding of planning, right? So in a sense, passion, problem, action is a multi-solution. So multi-solution is a tool for you. Regeneration, narratives, storytelling, that those are tools for you, right? To elicit story from yourself and from your students, of the day, of themselves, so they can start to connect in a relational way around shared experiences and common understandings when we see ourselves mirrored in each other's stories. And then climate action teams is the example, is the tactile, is the people facilitating their groups. So did that answer your question?
Yeah, thanks. No, I just kind of wanted to close that loop. I mean, I'm not familiar with the facilitating, and I can see me just kind of helping float around or support where needed. So I just wanted to be able to understand that.
Yeah, you got it. And Susie, the students will have like 45 minutes at lunch. However, there's quite a bit of stuff happening inside, and outside we have the planting activity. And
yeah,
so
I meant sorry, Maddie, I meant in case there is a facilitation of an event in the afternoon, which would be organized by student association members, in case they want to make that event something to show to ask students about their input in regards to, I don't know, for example, what comes to my mind, our cafeteria food could be a topic about sustainable local food, which is really not what we have on campus. And if there was a facilitator who wants to discuss this with a group of students, then I'm just wondering, because we are jumping through all kinds of hurdles for permission. Does that make sense, what I'm asking?
Okay. Yeah, would you be willing to just clarify? So you're asking for a facilitator to facilitate your students using to create an action plan for the cafeteria?
No, I was hoping that another facilitator would come out of our Georgian College Student Association, right? That they would facilitate, and then we would loop them in. And in case they would like to show something on campus, this is just really illegal, just an admission, what's the right word? Permission question I'm asking if the students are allowed to just check out something on campus with a facilitator and then come back to Sydenham. That was all I'm asking.
I understand. In this moment, it doesn't feel like there's time in the hour and 20 minutes to allow for a little bit of a walk out. However, there's bio breaks. There's a few bio breaks. And of course, there's lunchtime. So the walks and the experience of seeing the situation at Georgian, there's time for that. And you know, these kids will have to be supervised, certainly. But within the facilitated section of the afternoon, I think I can say I don't think that there is time. If we are to move through the work booklet. But I could, you know, open to what Lee or Hillary has, or Joanne or Jenny has anything to say about it.
I just, great question, Susie. And I think that would be as valuable as it would be. I think the scope of what parents have signed off on their field trip forms has said Sydenham campus. And these kiddos are grade 6 to 8. So they're relatively young, and I think I would not want to assume any responsibility if we had a kid wander off at a larger campus where we didn't have our supervision. So I'm going to probably say a hard no on that one. Just knowing the blue water policy and all that stuff, that like, I think what could be said is, here's some pictures, or here's what exists next door, and we'd love to like work with your group again. Like, that's the beauty of mentorship, is those kids might be Owen Sound kids that could really easily after school one day come and take a look at the campus and the activities that are happening there, or like projects that they might be able to support. So super valuable to bring into conversation, and maybe in future years we can write that into the paperwork.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
Is it too late, Susie, for you to do a table for the booth for the climate action fair, blah, and everything could be right there? Like, just throw it on the table.
I'm hoping that together with the student association members, there will be something happening. But since they're not here, I don't know. I'm hoping, keeping my fingers crossed. I'll let you all know as soon as I hear back.
Thanks. Yeah, you could bring a little slideshow if possible. But the other thing is, I think it's really great when students learn to formulate the problems really well. And I was, again, really impressed with the Keble students last year, that 3 problems that they, right from the beginning, articulated and formulated really, really well. So, because that's a good learning piece. How does you see, I'm stumbling here. how to explain a problem in a short form.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Any more questions? Thoughts, concerns?
Actually, I'm wondering, we have passion, problem, action. It could go the other way around too, couldn't it, in the conversation? Because the kids are often really on the problem. So, for instance, the cafeteria would be the low-hanging fruit, would be right in front of everybody's face. That was with our school too. They had a problem with parking lot and stuff like this. So they are really gung-ho. So we could go the other way around too, couldn't we? So we could formulate the problem and what are the passions in the group with which they could approach it, or what do you think?
I'll take a stab and then maybe Hill. Personally, that's probably where like half to 60% of the students will go, because we're living in a moment where problems are front and center, and it's probably top of mind. And that's, you know, often the easiest thing to say, right, is like, oh, this is an issue, or that's a problem, whether we see that modeled at home or we see that in media, whatever. So I certainly think being adaptive with that model would only serve you well, only help you. And I think, yeah, if that's this way, if that's where your kiddos are going, note that, you know, note the tone of how they're offering that problem, right? Is it something to pay attention to, of like, true, like this feels entrenched for them, or this feels really, really heavy for them, right? And then really spend some time on the passion, on like, what do you enjoy, and helping them see that you can do, like, you can solve something by doing something that you enjoy while also solving something else. Like, it's all kind of interconnected.
Actually, sorry to interrupt. Actually, just as you're speaking, I realize it would be almost like a paradox intervention if you start with a passion, because they don't expect that. I mean, I'm just kind of playing around with this idea and brainstorming.
Well, so that's it.
If you start with a passion, it's very difficult to get out of the problem and into the passion, because we're already down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it'd be interesting to hear, like, if Hill has like a minute or two to offer a tiny bit of context of like, if it's actually intentional that it's passion first, then problem, or if that was your choice, like, because completely to Joachim's thought right there, like Regenerate Grey Bruce is in our theory of change is narrative building and narrative shifting. So the cultural stories we tell ourselves and shifting those are almost impossible. It's a worldview change, it's a paradigm shift change. And to the point I just earlier made, more often than not, it's the stat is like 67% of the time, people are more often to start with a problem or start with a complaint when being asked, how are you, than they will with a positive thing or this happened, this great thing happened. And so to your point, Joachim, starting with a passion is a little bit of like a, oh, we're trying something new here, or not necessarily new, maybe unfamiliar. So I'm curious, Hillary, like, was that intentional to stage it like that? Was that how you learned it?
Quite honestly, I'm like trying to look through my old Meet-A-Wee notes right now. I actually don't remember, if I'm really honest. I think that's where facilitators, you bring in your magic, do what feels good. You'll read the group. I think you guys are, everyone here has great experience in working with people and knowing, like, is this a group that seems timid? Maybe we want to just learn a little bit about what excites you, who likes art, who likes sports, and then so that might be. But you might have a kid that comes in and is like, oh man, I hate how my class doesn't recycle properly, and they're already on to a problem. So as Maddie says, I think read the room. It can be either, and I will do my research. There probably was one or the other in my training with Meet-A-Wee, but I don't remember.
But I think just what you just said there, that person brought forward their passion because they didn't like what they saw. So, and I think back to kind of trying to look at the end result, which is an action plan, it should be tied to something that they're passionate about so that they're going to stay keen and interested, and thereby maybe it'll just transition into the problem because they have the passion, and then the action plan will kind of it may motivate them more. So if you say something to them, like in terms of compost waste, well, I don't care about compost waste, but this is going to be what you're going to do. They're not going to bring any passion to that.
Yeah. Sweet. I could talk on and on about, I just finished a course in positive psychology. So I am like all I'm going to say is we have this perception and change spaces like here, but not here, not here, because we're talking about passions, where we focus on attitudes rather than behavior. And more often than not, in all of these empirical studies, when you shift behavior, your attitudes follow. And so by starting with passions or including passions, right? Behavior, activities, doing something, you're going to link to kind of day-to-day, habitual excitement, serotonin, what you like, what you're good at. I know it's not necessarily the most positive thing to support what you're good at, what you're best at, but it'll be an element that'll come out. And then you link that to a change that you're asking of them, maybe not asking of them, but them asking of their community. It's more likely to hold tight and to fuse. So the model is great. It's really good. And like some of the students from last year are going to be on our panel. So on a panel. All right.